Hello, and welcome to Grug Gaming, and a new Let's Play for Dominions 4. For those of you not familiar with Dominions 4, it is a turn-based strategy game by Ill-Wintered Game Designs, and it has become one of my favorite strategy games since I discovered it several months ago. In Dominions 4, you play a god, trying to lead your faction and become the greatest god in the universe. The old Pancratator, which I've probably mispronounced, has disappeared, leaving the rest of the smaller gods to duke it out for supremacy. It's a game with a lot of options, a lot of different factions, and a lot of different ways to play. Now, I am not one of the most skilled Dominions 4 players out there, but hopefully I can be entertaining while we play. So without much further ado, let's go ahead and get started with Dominions 4. The first thing we're going to do is create a new game. Now, as you can see, we have several options for maps here. The maps starting with Iran down through Valanis are all pre-created maps that have different numbers of land provinces in them and are set up for different amounts of players. So if we take a look here, Bidden, for example, you can see is set up to 4 to 8 land nations. We can see that other maps, such as Glory of the Gods, is set up for a huge number of nations. A larger map can lead to a larger game. For this Let's Play, we're going to do a smaller map. Let's go ahead and name our game Let's Play. So, as you can see, the next step it's going to want us to do is to pick an era. In Dominions 4, there are 3 specific eras you can choose from. The first one is the Early Ages. In the early ages, civilization is at its beginning. You're not going to see a lot of heavy weapons, a lot of heavy armor, and magic is going to be extremely powerful. The Middle Ages, civilization's moved on. You start to see some more heavy weapons on the field, more iron armor. Magic is starting to wane, but is still extremely powerful. And then in the late ages, that's where we really start to see troops come into their own and magic go to the wayside. You start to see a lot more crossbows, more powerful cavalry, and then you start to see your mages more being specialized in their different spheres of magic. For this game, we're going to go ahead and start in the early ages. Next, we're going to choose the number of AI that we're going to play against. Now, personally, I like to add 5 AI to the map, which gives us a good number of different opponents to play. Also, I'm going to leave the AI on normal. As I said, I'm not the greatest player, and I find the normal AI to be fun to play against. And while you and I are learning the game together here, we're going to have some fun, maybe beating it up a little bit. We're going to go ahead, though, and we are going to choose our nation next. So here on the left, we're going to click where it says Random, and this is going to give us the list of nations available in the early ages. Now, I am playing an unmodded version of Dominions 4. There are many mods out there which can add nations from some of the most popular fantasy worlds out there to the game. I've seen things from Warhammer nations to even a nation based on man-like rabbits from Watership Downs. If you are interested in these, I highly recommend the forums. The old Desura forums for this game are full of useful information. The Steam forums are starting to catch up with that. So as we go through the nations here, you'll see that there are several differences between them. The top nations in the list, these are all land-based nations. Once we get down to Atlantis, these bottom nations are all based on being based out of the ocean. We're going to go ahead and we're going to play a land nation this game. The nation we're going to choose is actually going to be Ermor, the New Faith. This nation is based on Rome, and as you read the description, you'll see it says, Ermor is a human empire centered around a great city. The empire has just recently converted to the New Faith, and its magical skills are very versatile as mage priests from the Old Faith still linger. The reason I'm going to choose Ermor is, again, for this Let's Play, it is a great entry nation for anybody just starting up on Dominions 4. The troops in Ermor are very strong. The magic that it has access to can help you branch out into many different paths. And I find that in the early age, having the stronger troops gives you quite an advantage over some of the other nations. So we're going to go ahead and choose Ermor. Now that we've chosen them, we are going to leave the rest of the nations on random. This can cause issues, especially if we get a nation that has what's called Dom Kill, which I'll go into later in the game. So let's go ahead and read about our new nation. Ermor is an empire centered around a great city. For centuries it has grown and become more and more influential. Traders and travelers from near and far come to the city. By military campaigns, diplomacy, and trade, Ermor has become a power to be reckoned with. By adopting local traditions and beliefs, the Ermorians pose little threat to neighbors and conquered peoples, but this has begun to change. A new god is arising. Old syncretistic faiths and spirit worship were banned by a prophet dressed in white shrouds. The remnants of his body and shrouds are buried in the holy city of Eldergate, where the adherents to the new faith are awaiting the arrival of the reawakening god foreseen by the prophet. The all-encompassing old state cult of the Numinas still survives, but the pontificates and Flamen are slowly adopting the new faith. As you can tell as I read through that, I'm probably going to mispronounce a lot of words as we go through this playthrough. Hopefully that doesn't bother you, and hopefully you find my verbal flubs as entertaining as I find them. So when we're looking at this race, the race is made up of humans for our nation. The military, human legionnaires, and lizard auxiliaries. Again, the human legionnaires, great armor. They're going to stand up well against anything that can be thrown at us in the early age. Next up is magic. You'll see that this nation has access to all passive magic except blood. Now, blood magic involves sacrificing people to gain magical power. It is a more advanced path of magic in my feeling in the game and has some extra rules to it. By not dealing with that today through this Let's Play, I think we're going to have less to worry about. Now, next up, you'll see that their magic is also primarily fire, death, and astral. These are the different magical paths that we'll have easy access to. We may be able to get access to others either through the god that we choose for our nation or by finding places where we can recruit special mages. Next up, if we look down at the priest, we find out that we have powerful holy men in our nation who are able to heal afflictions. Afflictions can become important because later in the game we may run into instances where powerful spells have caused disease to cover the entire land, making our armies weaker as time goes by. We may also find out that as we take wounds in battle, that some of our troops become weaker and weaker, and as they get diseased, they may start to die off. As units grow old, especially some powerful mages, we may find that they became afflictions, and we'd like to be able to heal those. So this is a good rundown of our new nation. Next up in Dominions, it's time for us to go ahead and create our god. So, for the god of the Ermor, I'm going to go ahead and click on the icon here to give you a preview of all the different gods that we can choose from. As you can see, we have a lot of options for our nation, and in the next video, we'll be deciding on what our god looks like, what his powers or her powers are, and exactly how we're going to use that god to further the aims of our nation in Dominions 4. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you next time on Grug Gaming.